Welcome back to NUIC Football. I am your host, Kyle Kampmeyer. We had a great week in round 2 of the playoffs where there was a lot of games that really came down to the wire, while other games were absolute blowouts. But either way, it has set up the field for the semifinals in IHSA and the quarterfinals in the IHSA playoffs. We'll sit here and go through some of these teams right now, taking a look at the IHSA bracket just to get a quick recap of the games that were played last week to set up our semifinals. And in the first game was the game between the number 1 seed Pawnee Indians and the number 8 seed St. Anne Cardinals. Pawnee won that game 64-24, 190 yards on 35 carries with 7 touchdowns. On the other side of the bracket, and the opponent for Pawnee is the winner of that game between number 4 Amboy and number 5 Martinsville. Amboy, the defending state champs, comes away with a 32-20 win over Martinsville. That game was a back and forth game in the first half before Amboy finally separated themselves in the second half. Hats off to the Blue Streaks for a great effort against the Clippers. And that will set up a game in Pawnee for the right to get to Monmouth in the state championship, as Amboy will travel to Pawnee next week. That kickoff is at 4 p.m. at Pawnee High School. On the bottom side of the bracket, you have the number 1 ranked and number 2 seeded Polo Marcos, who got past the number 7 West Carroll Thunder 66-0. As they book their trip to their 5th consecutive semifinals, and they will play a familiar foe in rival Milledgeville, as the Missiles, the number 6 seeded Missiles, beat Ridgewood 16-12. Ridgewood was the 3 seed and the defending state runner-ups. That game was an interesting game as well. Milledgeville gets up to a 16-0 lead. Ridgewood is able to crawl their way back in. However, a couple missed extra points is the difference in that game, allowing Milledgeville to get to their first IHSA semifinals, where they get to play host to Polo in the Battle of the Blacktop in the playoffs with the right to go to state on the line. This game kicks off in Milledgeville on Saturday at 1 p.m. In Class 1A, the number 1 seed Leroy Panthers beat Rockford Lutheran 53-29. They get to go back home where they will place the Galena Pirates, who were a 33-6 winner over the Marquette Crusaders. Galena enters this game at 7-4, while Leroy is 11-0. This game kicks off in Leroy on Saturday at 1 p.m. The number 2 seeded Lena Winslow Panthers had no problems with conference rival Stockton as they cruise to a 44-14 win behind 216 yards by Alex Schlichting. And they will return home where they will play GCMS. The number 3 seeded Falcons beat Sterling Newman 28-0 to book their trip to the state quarterfinals for the first time since they won state in 2018. Gibson City Melvin Sibley will make the trip to Lena. This game kicks off on Saturday at 2 p.m. On the south side of the 1A bracket, Althoff Catholic beat Carrollton 43-21. That was a running clock game before Carrollton was able to put up some points. They will play KC Westfield, who beat Brown County 16-0. Althoff returns home for this game, and this game will kick off on Saturday at 2 p.m. And the game that a lot of people on the south side of the bracket are excited to watch is the rematch between the defending state champs, the Camp Point Central Panthers, and the Calhoun Warriors. These two teams met back up in week 2, where Calhoun won that game 14-13. Calhoun got to this matchup with a 14-6 win over Cesar-Valier, while Camp Point Central shut out the Cumberland Pirates 40-0. And this game is going to be played in Calhoun. So Camp Point Central will make another trip back to Hardin for this matchup between these two teams. Kickoff is Saturday at 2 p.m. in this mega matchup. We'll make a quick run through of Class 2A as we have no teams that we are covering, but we definitely have teams of interest that we talk about on a regular basis. And the first matchup we have is Farmington as they will travel to Dwight. Dwight upsets Elmwood Brimfield 12-6 to earn their way to the quarterfinals. And Farmington beats Rockridge 14-10 as they move into the quarterfinals. The other side of the bracket has Bismarck Henning Rossville Allen as a 21-14 winner over Seneca. And they are going to travel to Palos Heights to play Chicago Christian as Chicago Christian beats Tri-Valley 24-14. Big win for Chicago Christian. A lot of people, including myself, had Tri-Valley as a team to watch, but Chicago Christian has been on my radar all season long, and they got the big win here, 24-14. This game kicks off at Chicago Christian in Palos Heights with a 5 p.m. kickoff. Moving down to the south side of the bracket is Johnston City, as Johnston City beats Warrensburg Latham 24-6. The number 1 seeded Indians will play host to Pawnee as they beat Vandalia 34-28. Both teams are looking for a shot at the semifinals, where they will await the winner of the following matchup between Moreau of Forsyth and Quincy Notre Dame. Those two teams are arguably the two favorites coming out of the South bracket. They square off in the quarterfinals. Moreau of Forsyth beat Chester 28-7, while Quincy Notre Dame beat Arthur Lovington Atwood Hammond 34-7. And moving into Class 3A, the matchup everybody was talking about was that between the number 1 seeded, number 1 ranked Byron Tigers and the number 2 ranked, number 9 seeded Montini Catholic Broncos. And that game went to the Broncos in a stunning fashion, 14-13, as Byron scored with 30 seconds left, went for 2, but Montini was able to hold to prevail with the victory and move into the quarterfinals, where they will play Princeton. Princeton wins 34-16 over Chicago King. This game will be played in Princeton. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. Moving back into the NUIC is a matchup between last year's 2A state champs, Wilmington, as they are 11-0. They travel to Pecatonica to play Du-Pec, as they are 10-1. Wilmington beat Eureka 36-0, while Du-Pec beat Paxton Buckley Loda 33-6. This game kicks off on Saturday at 2 p.m. in Pecatonica. The south half of the bracket turns some heads as Tolona Unity gets their revenge, upsetting St. Joseph Ogden 35-7. Those two teams met in the regular season in a conference rival showdown. St. Joseph Ogden had won that game 24-21. Tolona Unity gets the win. They will move into the quarterfinals, where they will play host to Nashville. The Hornets get a 41-21 win over Greenville. And the bottom side of that bracket has Benton Rangers winning 41-0 over the number 2 seeded Sullivan Oakall Valley. And they will play Monticello as Cully Welter gets his Sages to the quarterfinals with a 42-14 win over Williamsville. This game will be played in Monticello on Saturday at 2 p.m. So that gives you a quick recap of the brackets from IHSA through Class 3A, where each of those games are, what times they're going to be played at. And we'll start to break down our teams and our games coming up next.
Need a fresh look for your home? Neff Paints, based in Warren, Illinois, is the local expert in interior and exterior painting, staining, and power washing. Serving Galena, Dubuque, Lake Carroll, Apple Canyon Lake, Lena, and beyond, Neff Paints uses premium products for lasting quality. Contact Skylar at 815-541-7338 for a free estimate and let your home shine inside and out.
We are going to start in 8-man, where Amboy comes in at 10-1, and they travel to Pawnee to face the number 1 seeded Indians, who are 11-0. Last week, Amboy beat Martinsville 32-20, while Pawnee beat St. Anne 64-24 to make this game come to fruition. Some players to watch for Amboy are the same guys that we talk about on a regular basis. We got running backs Josh McKendry and Braden Klein, quarterback Eddie Jones, wide receiver Caleb Llanos, and running back defensive end Quinn Leffelman. Take a look at those guys. Those are going to be your key guys to watch when the Clippers travel down to Pawnee on Saturday for this big matchup for the right to get to state. And on the other side of the ball are the Pawnee Indians. We mentioned running back Carson Wart, who rushed for 490 yards and 7 touchdowns this past weekend to help propel his team past St. Anne. Other players to watch include quarterback Caden Ward, wide receiver Ethan Fulton, wide receiver Dakota Coyne, Riley McElroy at tight end, and Eric Bettis. On the line, Caden Watts was a big standout for Pawnee in that game, in my opinion. Watching those guys last week as I called that game. Very good matchup here as the Amboy Clippers are looking to book their 3rd consecutive trip to the state championship game. Pawnee is making their first semifinal trip in school history, and a win here would put the Indians into the state championship game for the first time ever as well. Taking a look at this game, there's a lot of similarities between these two teams, but I'm getting asked this question a lot. Do you think that Pawnee can beat Amboy? And after watching Pawnee live last week, and I also watched them in a game earlier this year against Martinsville as well, yes, I do feel that Pawnee has an opportunity to play with and beat Amboy. It's going to take a big effort out of the Clippers to be able to stop running back Carson Wart, who is a workhorse. A lot of people are already dismissing the fact that they feel that Carson Wart's their only option, and that is extremely false. They do run a single back set, shotgun option offense. However, quarterback Caden Ward does have other threats, specifically in the receivers that I've already named in Ethan Fulton, Dakota Coyne, and Riley McElroy, along with Eric Bettis. Defensively, these guys get after the ball. They are a physical team that will come up and hit you. They do a great job of sealing off the gaps. In order for Amboy to have success here, they're going to have to be able to control the line of scrimmage. If they can win off the line of scrimmage and get that initial push, they will find themselves to have some success to be able to open up holes to run against Pawnee offensively, and then defensively at the same time, they'll be able to also help stymie the running effort of Carson Wart. However, it's not going to be an easy task. They are a pretty fast team. They're very big. Their offensive line averages about 240 pounds. So they have some good beef and size up front, and they are very electric at their skills positions. That's something that we've talked about Pawnee all season long was, we weren't sure if the line play was going to be the key or the demise to what the Indians can do, but you could always tell that they had the skill players in order to make the plays happen. And taking a look at how Pawnee played, they definitely have the size, and they have some good linemen that can make a lot of things happen for their offense. So, for Pawnee to have success is exactly what I talked about on the broadcast last week. They too will have to control the line of scrimmage. Ultimately, they're going to have to be able to establish that run game to allow the pass game to open up. If they can establish the run, they can see a lot of success in this game on Saturday. If they cannot establish the run game, it might be lights out for the Indians, and we'll be talking about the Clippers making another trip to the state finals. Now, looking at this game, the favorite coming in has Amboy as the favorite by 8.5 points. The Massey projections have Amboy projected to win this game 42-16 over Pawnee. I will be the first to state that I don't think that score is going to be what we see. I would be surprised if we saw that much of a score separation in this game. I think this is two teams that are able to play at a high level and will match up very well with each other. My pick to win in this game is going to be Amboy. It's a hard one not to pick the defending state champs along with the team that's been there 4 years in a row in the semifinal game. They've been to the state championship each of the last 2 years. I will not be surprised if Pawnee comes away with this victory. The IHSA state champion has been undefeated in every single season that the state championship has been played, and Pawnee is one of 2 teams left that are undefeated. So we could potentially see history made, but at the same token, this will be a very good game. Like I said, don't think the score separation is going to be what the projection states. I think this will be a hard-fought game. I'm excited to see how this one plays out. But I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to go with Amboy in this one. I do feel Pawnee has a chance to win. But when you get into the semifinal games, it comes down to, yes, experience. And Amboy has that experience under their belts. Pawnee might prove me wrong, but that's what we got. We return to Milledgeville as the Missiles booked their first IHSA semifinal appearance with a 16-12 win over Ridgewood, who was just in the state championship game a season ago. And who do they get to play host to? The rival down the road in the Polo Marcos, who sit undefeated at 11-0 as they beat West Carroll 66-0 to make their 5th consecutive semifinal appearance. Milledgeville players to watch in this one are the same guys that we've been talking about all year long. Spencer Nye, Micah Tom Smith, Carter Livingood, Connor Johnson, and potentially Kyson Francis. Francis has put up some good numbers at the quarterback position, but last week, Carter Livingood was moved to quarterback to change some things up. And in that process, definitely gave the Missiles a different look in what they do offensively. Ultimately, it still helped as the Missiles came away with the win, but definitely gives you a different look. Another player to watch too is Dalton Adamic on the offensive and defensive lines. That kid's a big kid and is able to make a lot of things happen. Likewise, on the other side of the ball, Polo counters that with QB Gus Mumford, running back Noah Dewey, running back JT Stevenson. You have an offensive lineman, Logan Nelson, defensive tackle, and Wyatt Plockno. These guys are big. They have some size. They're fast. And what I love about Polo is they continue to run a QB veer option style offense predicated out of a typical 11-man run scheme, and they make it work for themselves. And Gus Mumford has been the guy that can make that offense go. when you break down these two teams, they met earlier this year. Polo won this game 30-14. The game was actually closer than what the score was, as both teams were very well played in this game. A lot of respect between these two teams as well, because there's a lot on the line when these two teams get together, especially here as of late. These two teams have recent history, with Milledgeville winning in the regular season, Polo winning in the second season or the playoffs. This time around, though, Polo got the win in the regular season. The last time Polo did win in the regular season and they met in the playoffs, they also won. So, Polo comes in this game as a 6.5-point favorite. But as I've stated time and time again, I feel that Milledgeville has always been one of the teams to pay attention to. They reminded me a lot of last year's Amboy team with their defensive ends of Dalton Adamic and Carter Livingood. And then you have Spencer Nye at middle linebacker. And then you have Micah Tom Smith and Connor Johnson at DBs. Just a very explosive defense, very explosive offense, and a team that has great special teams. Polo obviously is going to do what they do, and that's going to be run the ball as much as they can, establish the tempo, establish the ground game, chew up clock. When it comes to experience and pressure situations, Polo definitely has the upper hand in this matchup. However, projections show, while Polo is the favorite to win, the projections have Milledgeville winning this game 36-34. So, I do expect this game to be a barn burner. Like I just mentioned in our last little segment for Pawnee and Amboy, every IHSA state champion has been undefeated so far in the history of IHSA. Polo is one of two teams remaining that are undefeated. So, history could happen here. Milledgeville could make their first ever state championship game. And Polo could also be booking their trip to their third state championship game, which would make them the first team, if they were to win, to make 3 trips to the state championship game. Either way, it's going to be an interesting game. I will side on experience in this one. I would not be surprised by the winner of this game. I think both teams are more than capable of being great representatives in the state championship game in Monmouth. I like both of these teams. I think they're both very exciting teams to watch play, which would bring more intrigue to that state championship game at Monmouth. However, I'm going to go with Polo in this one. I like Polo's chances to get back to that state championship game. And maybe Milledgeville can prove me wrong along the way. But my pick is going to be the Marcos.
This portion of our broadcast is brought to you by Diedrich Epoxy Flooring. Serving northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin, Diedrich Epoxy is the source for all of your epoxy needs. Give Diedrich Epoxy Flooring a call today at 815-239-1158 for your free estimate.
Moving over into NUIC action, the first game we'll talk about is that between Lena Winslow and GCMS. Lena Winslow enters this game at 11-0 after they beat conference rival Stockton 44-14, and GCMS is 10-1 after they beat the Newman Central Catholic Comets 28-0. The last time GCMS and Newman met up in the playoffs, the winner of that game went on to win a state championship 3 consecutive years in a row. Granted, those games were in Class 2A, now they're in 1A. However, it's still just a little bit intriguing to see that play out. But they're making the trip to Lena, where the Panthers have been in 4 consecutive state title games. They've won 6 state championships since 2010. They have quickly become the class of 1A football. And here they are once again in a quarterfinal for the 8th consecutive year. Players to watch for Lena Winslow include Alex Schlichting, Aiden Wild, Jalen Rakowska, Gannon Dunker, Landon Grindy, and then you have a bunch of other guys that are able to really stand out and make big plays at key moments for the Panthers. I mean, you could go down and list the entire team really if you wanted to, but those guys right there really help get this team going. On the other side of the ball for GCMS, Jacob Chase is the running back that really leads the Falcon offense. Braden Bradbury's another running back that will get some carries. Doesn't have a whole lot of yards on the year, as a lot of offense runs through a spread style shotgun single back type of offense. In years past, GCMS has been able to run tight I wing offense, but right now they look to be more diverse in the spread style shotgun style offense. Quarterback is Braden Elliott, and then you have Trent Weatherall and Riker Grauer at end and tight end respectively. Those two guys are going to be the main receiving threats in this offense when Elliott drops back to pass. Defensively, the Falcons are led by Grauer, Logan Ward, and Connor Kinzinger. The great thing about GCMS is they come out of the Heart of Illinois Conference. The Heart of Illinois Conference won 4 consecutive 2A state championships from 2015 to 2018, with those wins coming from Tri-Valley, Deer Creek Mackinac, and then back-to-back state titles by GCMS. Tri-Valley was also the 2013 state runner-up to Lena Winslow when they're in Class 1A, and they were the 2021 state runner-up, or 2022. Either way, the Heart of Illinois Conference has put together some good teams, and when you take a look at these quarterfinals for Class 1A in the north side of the bracket, you have 2 conferences represented. It's the NUIC versus the HOIC. So that gives you a little bit more intrigue to what goes on between these 2 games as Saturday quickly approaches. Lena Winslow is going to enter this game as the favorite, as a 19.5 point favorite, by the way. And projections show Lena Winslow winning this game 40-14 over GCMS. We shall see. GCMS is coached by Chad Augsburger. Augsburger was the defensive coordinator for GCMS when they won their back-to-back state championship games. Their lone loss on the season did come to Leroy, who is the number 1 seed on the other side of the north bracket. That game, GCMS suffered some injuries that made them more one-dimensional, and with that, made it very hard for them to see any progress in what they wanted to do. They're going to have to come up with a big game plan here this week in order to stop the Lena Winslow offense. If Lena Winslow can come out and continue playing the way that they have each of the last 2 weeks, they're going to be a very tough team to beat. Not only that, but they have the experience behind their backs. They have a great coaching staff that knows how to make quick adjustments. But you have 2 coaching staffs here that have a lot of state championship experience. So anything is possible. I do think that Lena Winslow is going to win in this game. They're definitely my pick to win, to book a trip to the semifinals. I do feel that provided that Lena Winslow comes focused and ready to go and does not overlook anything from GCMS, that they should be able to win this game. I don't want to say comfortably because it's going to be a dogfight, but they definitely have to put things together in order to make this game happen the way that would be a bigger win. But a 3 touchdown favorite coming in. Definitely can see them winning this game by 3 to 4 touchdowns as well. Lena Winslow is my pick to win to move on. The other side of the 1A bracket in the north has Leroy playing host to Galena. Leroy is 11-0 after they beat Rockford Lutheran 53-29, while Galena enters this game at 7-4 after they beat Marquette 33-6. Some players to watch for Galena include Roman Romer, Miles Schumacher, Josh McNett, Braden Kevern, Max Schultz, and Zach Heller. Those guys right there have been the main catalyst for the Pirates, both offensively and defensively, all season long. And for Galena to find success in this game, they are going to have to rely on those guys to help carry these Pirates against a very stout Leroy team that, until this past week against Rockford Lutheran, really hadn't faced much of a challenge all season long. Probably their closest game was that game against GCMS when they won that game. I believe it was 34-13. So either way, this was going to be a very good game up front. You know, Leroy is led by Bo Zalesnik, who is the coach's son. He's also the quarterback. Leads the team in rushing yards from the quarterback position. He also has help with running back Stephen Williams and Landon Welty. And then you have Kobe Brent, Sam Wagner, and Brock Owens. Those guys are the main guys offensively and defensively. On defense, these guys are very fast. They're very disciplined. They play a physical style of football. They're a senior heavy-laden team. We've talked about it throughout the course of the season. They have 18 seniors on this team, which is just amazing for a Class 1A program to have 18 seniors on one team. But Leroy does. They have a lot of experience. Some interesting notes is these two teams did meet up in the 2003 state championship game. That would have been Coach BJ Zalesnik. That was his first year at the helm of the program, and he lost in the state championship game to Galena in, I think it was double overtime if I remember correctly, 21-20. And here they get a meet up again. What a tale of the tape that is as well. And then you take a look at another fun fact that I found today was actually through my buddy Matt Surdick. He brought it up, but 1996, Leroy won the state championship on November 29th. And Coach Zalesnik's dad was the head coach at that time. The state championship this year is going to be played on November 29th as well. So just a little fun fact there. Is this a team of destiny? We don't know. But anything can happen. Leroy's definitely going to come into this game as the favorite. They are 18.5-point favorites. Projections have Leroy beating Galena 35-21. If Leroy does win this game and Lena Winslow wins against GCMS, Leroy would play host in the semifinals, forcing Lena Winslow to take the road south to Leroy for that matchup. And boy, would that be interesting. I like the fact that these two teams are both good teams that have some history, power run teams. But Galena likes to spread the ball out a little bit. They're going to play more of a spread, single back offense, able to pass, able to run. Schumacher obviously gets a lot of the yards for the Pirates. Roman Romer is going to be a guy that can both run the ball, throw the ball, leads the team in passing yards. But they can do some different things. Get Owen Hafel into the mix. Doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. And then you have Roman Romer getting some receptions as well. So it'll be interesting to see because you got two different styles colliding here. If you take a look at Galena and you take a look at some things I've seen out of GCMS this year, they kind of run a similar offense, which in my opinion would play to Leroy's favorite, as they were able to shut GCMS down with relative ease when they played each other. So, I hate to do it to the Pirates once again, but last week I picked against them and they won, and this week I'm going to pick against them again. I like Leroy in this game, but I am cheering for Galena to win this game, of course. I want Galena to win this game. I hope they prove me wrong. It would be awesome to see a potential all NUIC state semifinal, but at the same time, Leroy is the number 1 seed. They're the number 3 ranked team in the state coming in. They've been a team that we've talked about all season long, even into our playoff show, as being a team that would have a shot at getting to the state championship game in Normal. Here they are. This is the matchup we talked about even on our playoff show. We saw the path for both of these teams to meet up here with Galena with a path to the quarterfinals, and they definitely made that path happen. Albeit they had to have a big come from behind win in round 1, which they were able to finish off Stark County. Then they got the big win over Marquette last week, 33-6, and now they get to play Leroy, who has basically just punched their way to the state quarterfinals right now. But Leroy's my pick to win. But Galena, if you win it, we'll be right there cheering for you. Our last game to cover is going to be Wilmington traveling to Du-Pec. This game will take place in Pecatonica, where the Rivermen are 10-1, playing host to the defending 2A state champion Wilmington Wildcats, who are 11-0. Du-Pec beat Paxton Buckley Loda 33-6 to make this game happen, while Wilmington beat Eureka 36-0. Du-Pec players to watch include Cooper Hoffman, Lucas Rousseau, Dermot Dolan, Jackson Diedrich, and Brody Black. Those guys are the offensive weapons that make this game go. Defensively, Ethan Rager's another guy to watch out for at linebacker, as Du-Pec has been very good offensively and defensively most of the season. But Wilmington's been a little bit better on the defensive side of the ball. They are a power run team, much to the likes of a Forston and Lena Winslow of past years. They run a double wing style offense. It's a little bit different than what Forston runs that we see, but it's more similar to what we've seen in recent years with Camp Point Central, where you can definitely see more of that traditional style double wing where the quarterback pitches the ball, gets out in front, and becomes one of the lead blockers. Wilmington has had a lot of recent success. This is their 28th consecutive trip to the playoffs. They've won 20 conference championships. They were the 3A state champions in 2014, 2A state champs in 2021 and 2023. And here they are with another shot at getting to the state semifinals for the third time in 4 seasons as they play Du-Pec. Wilmington players to watch include running backs Ryan Kettman and Kyle Farrell. Those 2 guys are the key guys that you're going to see a lot of focus on. Hunter Aspivicius, sorry if I screwed that up, is the other running back. And then Zach Oland and Ryan Nelson. Ryan Nelson is a tight end linebacker. Zach Oland is on the offensive line linebacker. Those 2 are also key cogs in the middle of that Wildcat defense. And really, Wilmington is one of those teams that's going to be very similar to teams that we normally see in our area, Lena Winslow and Byron. Very physical up front. They like to get to the edge. They're going to run traps, dives, double dives. They're going to run puck sweeps, your traditional wing style offenses. Very fun offense to watch run. It goes back to the whole cliche that we talk about, boring football. It's not boring football. You just got to know how to defend it, know how to play it. either way, this is going to be a challenge for Du-Pec. There's no doubting that at all. You have a team, like I said, with the success that Wilmington has had and the pedigree that they have, and we've seen Du-Pec struggle against Lena Winslow, a team that really is very similar to what Wilmington does. And for Du-Pec to find success, yes, they'll have to stack the line. Wilmington does not throw the ball very often. They are like 97% run, which is fun if you're a run guy, power offense guy like myself. I like that style of offense. But I do like what Du-Pec does offensively. Cooper Hoffman obviously is a big threat in the run game, in the pass game. And with Lucas Rousseau and Dermot Dolan, he has two guys there that can help offset that rushing load. And then Jackson Diedrich and Brody Black, two guys that are already making their waves in the Du-Pec history books. Jackson Diedrich recently set the new school record for receiving yards in a career along with touchdowns. Brody Black's not that far behind them. He sits third all time in school history as he has passed 1,000 receiving yards for his career as well. Wilmington, no shock here, will enter this game as a surprising 4.5-point favorite. You would think that it would be a little bit bigger differential, especially considering the fact that Du-Pec got walloped by Lena Winslow earlier this year. But anything is possible. Wilmington is the projected favorite to win this game, 38-24. Like I said, this is going to be an interesting matchup. Two different styles of offense going against each other. Du-Pec's definitely going to have to be able to stay home, play responsible defense. They have to stay home. They cannot get caught up trying to chase. But at the same time, they're going to have to attack the lead block. If they cannot attack the lead block, they're going to find themselves in a lot of problems in a hurry against this offense. With that said, it should be a great game to go out and watch. I do feel it'll be a good game. I keep getting asked where I'm going to be on Saturday. This is the game that you will find me at least to start the day. I'm interested to see both these teams play. It'll be my first time, actually, surprisingly, to see a Du-Pec playoff game. Likewise, I've seen Wilmington twice in the past 3 years, both times at the state championship game. So it'll be fun to see them outside of the state championship realm. The winner of this game is going to make the trip to Lombard in the state semifinals, most likely, as I am projecting Montini Catholic to be the team that the winner of this game will have to face. And they'll have to go into Lombard because Montini's going on the road again this week, which means that both these teams will have 2 home games under their belt already to Montini's 1 game. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But Wilmington is my pick to win. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but gotta go with the team with the experience in this one. All right, that gives you a quick breakdown of what the brackets look like from IHSA to Class 3A. A lot of big games on the docket. We just got done talking about all of the IHSA matchups for their semifinals. We will be down in Monmouth College next Friday night for that state championship game. And then we will be returning back to, hopefully, a semifinal matchup in one of our NUIC games next week as well, as we look to get another team to the state championship game. But a lot of good matchups here. Anything can happen on any given day. Nothing is guaranteed. That's why it's always fun come playoffs. That's the beauty of football. It's not about the team that has the best players. It's about the team that shows up and plays as a team that will be the winner of these games. pick a game. It doesn't matter. Pick a game, go to it. You're probably going to see a great football game. I really do like all of these matchups this week. Even with the different score separations, I think each of them have a lot of intrigue that will either play out as expected, or maybe we will be a little bit more surprised at a larger score separation or an upset. Who knows? Either way, get out to the games, have fun. As always, root for the NUIC.